You can be standing in a packed room, surrounded by people you've known for years, and still feel completely invisible. Have you ever felt that way? That feeling has nothing to do with how many people are physically near you. Loneliness is actually the gap between the connections you want and the connections you actually have, and it is a completely hardwired physical response. When your body needs calories, it creates the physical pain of hunger, forcing you to eat. When your brain needs people, it creates the social pain of loneliness, driving you to connect. So, feeling lonely doesn't mean there's something wrong with your personality. It is simply your body's dashboard warning light, blinking to tell you that an essential survival need isn't being met. To understand why connection is a survival need, we have to look back 50,000 years. Back then, staying alive meant hunting, gathering, and raising kids as a tightly knit group. If you wandered off and got separated from your tribe, you were exposed to predators, freezing temperatures, and starvation. Being alone almost always meant you weren't going to survive. Evolution solved this problem by programming an alarm system. It gave us a deeply unpleasant ache when we were isolated, what scientists call social pain, to force our ancestors to turn around and get back to the safety of the campfire. When you sit on your couch today, feeling an ache in your chest because someone hasn't texted you back, that is your ancient biology using pain to keep us safely inside your modern tribe. But what happens when an alarm system breaks and won't turn off? It just keeps blaring, even when there is no real danger, like a smoke detector screaming over a burnt piece of toast. When loneliness goes on for too long, your brain gets stuck in a state of hypervigilance. That means your brain's internal threat center, the amygdala, gets jammed in the on position, constantly scanning your environment for danger. Looking at this diagram, you can see how your brain starts misreading reality. A friend taking a few hours to reply to a message suddenly looks like a deliberate, hostile rejection. There is a strict logic to this glitch. In the ancient world, an isolated person was left extremely vulnerable. You couldn't afford to trust a hostile stranger, so your brain cranked up its suspicion to protect you from being stabbed in the back. This creates a terrible loop. The exact alarm designed to drive you toward other people ends up making you view them as threats, causing you to push them away just when you need them most. That constant state of high alert takes a heavy emotional toll, but if it goes on long enough, it also begins to physically alter the hardware of your brain. Staying in threat detection mode floods your body with high levels of distress hormone cortisol. Over months or years, that persistent chemical bath begins to damage your actual neurons. The physical tissue in your memory centers begins to shrink. This explains the heavy brain fog, the frustrating forgetfulness, and the difficulty making decisions that people often experience after long periods of isolation. Scientists observed this firsthand at the Neumeier 3 Polar Research Station. They studied a team living in extreme, freezing isolation for 14 months. When the team returned, brain scans showed they lost actual physical volume in their frontal lobes, the exact region just behind your forehead that handles problem solving and planning. Another area, the default network, goes into overdrive when your mind is on standby. Without real social interaction, it expands to compensate, causing you to daydream about past events or talk to pets as if they were human. The brain is physically reshaping itself. It is trimming down areas meant for active problem solving and beefing up areas meant to simulate the connections you're missing. But there is a way to stop this process. It relies on a biological mechanism called social buffering. Think of social buffering like the shock absorbers on a car. When you go through a rough patch, human connection actively blocks those harmful stress hormones from flooding your brain and doing damage. Look at this network chart. Your brain isn't counting followers. It's looking for reliability. From a survival standpoint, you need to know that if a predator shows up, the person next to you won't run away. When your brain recognizes even one person as truly dependable, it gets the signal it needs to drop its guard and stop the flow of stress chemicals. To protect your health, you don't have to force yourself to become a social butterfly. You just have to invest deeply in a few people who truly have your back and who know you have theirs. Think of your brain as a living landscape that never stops growing. As you start to reach out, your neurons begin stretching out new physical branches to bridge the empty gaps and forge fresh paths. This process, where your brain physically remodels itself to heal, is called neuroplasticity. The loss of brain volume, the heavy memory fog, and that exhausting hypersuspicion are not permanent. Once you reestablish quality connections, your brain begins to rebuild those lost structures. So if you're feeling isolated, try to take one small, uncomfortable step today. Send a quick text, call an old friend, or say hello to a neighbor. If you feel a spike of fear, remember, it's just your broken smoke detector going off. Your brain isn't broken. It's just a highly advanced system working overtime to keep you safe. And you have the biological power to finally turn that alarm off.